Good morning. Welcome to our first Daylight Savings Time service of 2021. We're glad that you made the transition and got here, even though spring forward challenges our sleep patterns and sense of time. This month, we're exploring the idea of commitment. When I was about 7 years old, I had one of my earliest experiences of considering commitments. I had joined a Brownie Girl Scout troop. We learned the song, "Whene'er You Make a Promise." The words are quite simple. Whene'er you make a promise, consider well its importance, and when made, engrave it upon your heart. Simple as the words are, I can remember the feeling of great gravitas about something that must be engraved on our hearts. We often sang this as a round, which meant that the idea of engraving something important on our hearts came around again and again. It impressed upon me that promises are not something to be taken lightly. Girl Scouts and this song have been a constant in my life, from growing up as a Girl Scout to being a camp counselor and then a leader of a Girl Scout troop for my daughter. I taught this song to the Girl Scout troop I shepherded for 12 years. I still have a coterie of Girl Scout friends, and we still sometimes sing this song. The gravitas I felt at 7 has never really left me. A promise is a commitment of high order, and I try not to seem to promise something I will not be able to follow through with. As much as the people pleaser parts of me want to always promise, if I don't know if I will be able to follow through with something, I quite literally say, I don't know if I can promise that, but I will try. From the feedback I've gotten from colleagues and friends, this approach to promises seems to be appreciated for its honesty, even as it may disappoint someone hoping for a more rigorous commitment. Perhaps what I learned at 7 is that to not keep promises not only has potential damage for relationships, but also has potential to hurt our own hearts. Perhaps now as an adult, I understand that sincerely offering a promise is a way to offer love. Keeping that promise is an act of love. Whene'er you make a promise, consider well its importance. Hearts hang in the balance. Come, let us worship together. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light yours as I offer these words of Mother Teresa, which may be found in our gray hymnal. Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, rich or poor, it's not how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others.
The water is wide, I cannot get o'er, and neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row. My love and I leaned my back against some young oak, thinking it was a trusty tree, but first it bent and then it broke, just as my love proved false to me. Oh, love is handsome
is fine, bright as the jewel when first it's new. But love grows old and waxeth cold and fades away like morning dew.
The water is wide, I cannot get on, and neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm Sue Bickford, your worship associate. The Reverend Jeremiah Callanday, who serves this congregation as developmental minister, is away from the pulpit this morning. Church member, the Reverend Kikanza Nuri Robbins, is gracing us with her words this morning. Our worship team is delighted to be joining you in our online sanctuary today. Unitarian Universalism is not defined by creed or dogma, but is guided by principles that affirm the worth and dignity of every person and encourage the individual search for truth and meaning. We honor the wonder of existence and believe that we are all connected to each other and to the interdependent web of life. Our beliefs are drawn from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient tradition. We are an open, affirming, and welcoming congregation. We're diverse in backgrounds, social locations, gender identities, ethnicities, sexual orientations, spiritualities, and philosophies of life. We are united in our desire to create a diverse, beloved community, to live the principles of our faith, and to serve the wider world. We acknowledge that our church building and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Tongva people, who lived here and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize and mourn the great harm inflicted on the indigenous people of this country. We lift up their grace, resilience, and relationship with these ancient lands. We welcome all of you who worship with us from Santa Monica and from across the country, from Hawaii and Alaska to the Atlantic Ocean. Whether this is your first time with us or you have worshiped here all your life, you are welcome here this morning. Join us after the service for our coffee hour on Zoom with a number of small group opportunities with different discussion topics, conversations, and opportunities to get to know one another more deeply. Links will be posted below, as well as on our UUSM Facebook group. We offer many programs to serve our congregation and to be of service to the world. If you're interested in learning more, please join us for our visitor meetup after the service. For more information about our activities and ways to get involved, take a look at our website and our newsletter at uusm.org. We are especially pleased to announce this morning that our esteemed music director and so much more, Sandra Choi, has been hired to serve as the music coordinator for this year's General Assembly. Sandra will be coordinating all the music that happens at GA, His face may not be seen directing musicians, but we just may recognize his touch in the production. We offer our congratulations and blessings for this important national leadership role.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meets to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración.
The quest for truth is its sacrament and service is its prayer.
Vivir juntos en paz.
To dwell together in peace.
Buscar el conocimiento en la libertad.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
Servir a la humanidad en comunión.
To serve humankind in fellowship.
Así es como convenimos unos a otros.
Thus do we covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue. be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
We hold one another in the light. We hold one another in the light of our promises, our commitments, our covenants with one another. We hold one another in the light as we share in community the joys and sorrows that befall each and every one of us. We hold one another in the light as we reflect upon our secret sorrows, our personal joys. We hold one another in the light as we watch and witness the transitions that we make from birth to commitment to relationships in marriage to retirement to death, to new relationships, to reconciling with ourselves, our achievements, our failures, our disappointments, promises made, promises broken, promises kept. We hold in the light the promises that give us hope and give us a reason for moving forward through our days. We hold in our hearts the commitments that we have made and the sacrifices that we make to keep those commitments. We hold in the light, looking at our feet at the broken promises that are scattered around us, knowing that those too are part of life and part of light. And so in this silence, lift up your joys, lift up your sorrows, lift up your accomplishments, lift up your disappointments, reflect on your transitions and the hope and the joy and the commitment that we make, the covenant that we make with one another to be in community as we move toward tomorrow. Good morning, and congratulations once again to Sonder, who has been chosen to be Director of Music for the General Assembly this year. Sonder, you keep UUSM on the map, and we are proud of you and grateful for all of the gifts that you share with us. Our video productions, the extraordinary music, all of the work that you do behind the scenes. We are so grateful to all that you do to make us look so good and to feel so good because of your work. You know, I'm a consultant and I am paid most of the time to have answers. I'm also paid to ask the right questions. As a minister, I get a little more flexibility. It depends. Sometimes I have questions, sometimes I have answers. Today, I have more questions than I have answers. And I hope that there's a liminal space where we can dance together, you and I, as we explore what it means to make or break a promise. When I was a kid and my mother was trying to instill fear and awe in her children, after announcing what she would do if her instructions were not obeyed, she would end her little speech with, "And that's not a threat, that's a promise." Growing up, promises were a big deal in my house. We didn't pinky swear, but we would cross our hearts and hope to die when promising something. And very seldom did anyone renege on a promise. My mother would tell us, don't make promises that you can't keep. Don't promise to do things you won't want to do, because if you promised, you're stuck. So as kids, everything was a big deal worthy of a promise. So we would force someone to say, "Promise, I promise." And we learned ways to weasel out of those false promises. We would say, "I promise," but my fingers were crossed. Or, "I promise to do my best," which most likely won't be what you want. "I promise to try." "I promise to do it if I can." My mother's favorite non-promise was, "We'll see." As I've matured, I've learned that promises are more likely to be inferred than they are to be offered. We talk about political promises, but if you really listen as the candidates tell you what they want to do, you'll hear that their statements are more aspirational and inspirational and hopeful rather than promises. As adults, we shouldn't make promises we can't keep. We shouldn't expect others to keep promises they have no business making, especially when the promises are contingent on circumstances they cannot control. But we do it anyway. People get married and promise to love and cherish forever. They promise to love unconditionally. Think about it. Unconditionally? Really? How can you say that? Of course, there are conditions. I think perhaps unconditional love means that my love is not transactional. I won't withhold my love if you don't do something or if you do something. But then that's probably another complete sermon on its own. Relationship promises are more like hopes. In this moment, for as long as I feel this way, I hope I can do these things for you and with you. I promise to hope to love you forever. I promise to hope to call you in the morning. I promise that I hope to be right back. I promise I hope I never do that. I promise I hope I always do this. Because I really do love you in this moment, and I really do want you to be happy. But when your happiness interferes with my happiness, that's a condition that changes how much I can love you. It's so complicated. So, is there a difference between a promise and a commitment? Sometimes a promise is more like a wish or hope. I was taught not to make New Year's resolutions, the process of setting aside one more thing I'm going to try and probably fail to do, but rather to make a commitment. I'm going to adjust my behavior so that this thing will happen. A commitment. You can count on me. I will be there when you need me. I will be there when it counts. You don't have to worry because I got this. I'm committed to excellence in my work. I'm committed to making a big difference. I can't even say I'm committed without putting my hand over my heart. I'm so committed to making a difference that when I see I cannot make a difference, I remove myself from the project. I am committed to your success. So when you ask me to do something that I know I can't do, I let you know so that you can make other arrangements. A friend once said to me, "When you say no, you really mean it, don't you?" Yeah. She would ask me to do something and I'd say, "No, I'm not going to do that." Then she would come back and say, "I thought you were going to do," And I would say, I told you I wasn't going to do it. And her response was, well, yeah, but I thought you would change your mind because I asked you. I want to be the kind of person you can count on. You can count on my yes, and you can count on my no. If I say yes and later have to make it a no, I suffer, and then I apologize. I have to come up with an alternative, and I want to give you time to make other arrangements. And I do this because I didn't just promise, I made a commitment. Promises are words of hope. Commitments are intentions to act. I think commitments come from a deeper place than promises. They come from a place of values and passion. So perhaps a spiritual discipline is to be mindful of the kind of promises you make, to examine the things to which you commit yourself. What does commitment look like for you? If you make a commitment, when should you quit? Why should you quit? To whom do you make these commitments? What are the consequences to you, to the other, to your constituents? Can you renegotiate a commitment? Will there be another opportunity? How does keeping the commitment resonate with your values? How would breaking the commitment resonate with your values? How important is not doing this thing to your mental health, to your emotional well-being, to your physical health? What happens when values change, when priorities shift, when circumstances are just different? What do you do? And what does what you do say about your character? See, I told you I had a lot of questions. One of the hardest lessons I have learned is that sometimes promises can't be kept. That promises, no matter what you call them, are sometimes made with great sincerity and sometimes are only made because someone else insisted. I've also learned that just because the words sound like a promise, I have to take into consideration the context in which the promise is made. What have I missed? What have I chosen to ignore? I also have to take into consideration my own neediness or past failures that made a promise so necessary to me. Promises are often expressions of hope, and they are often extracted with fear. Commitments are promises that are informed by values and fed by passion. So what's a covenant? I think covenants are the most serious of promises. A covenant is a three-way promise. When I work with couples planning to marry, I have 3 rules. The first is that whatever you do has to be aligned with your shared values. So if throwing a piece of your beloved's underwear and tossing it to your family and friends is aligned with your values, and it's perfectly fine with me, but I certainly want you to think about it and think about what alternatives you might have. So perhaps rather than taking off the garter, you throw flowers or flower petals. So that's rule 1. Rule 2 is that what the bride does, the groom does. 2 brides, 2 grooms, doesn't matter. You each are getting married. You both do the same thing. So if one makes a grand entrance and walks down the aisle, so does the other one. If one's parents present them to be married, so does the other one, because you're both getting married. Rule 3 is about commitments, and that's where it might be different, because my 3rd rule is you each have to tell me what you are promising your beloved. And so your promises may be different than your promises, but you both have promises that you make to each other. That kind of promise is a covenant. Covenants are promises that are made in community, and they are sustained by the love of the parties in the covenant, the love they have for each other, the love they share with their community. A covenant is a promise made between you and me in the presence of our community and in the presence of our gods. So here in our UU world, we make covenants. We make covenants as a congregation. We make covenants as members of committees and small groups. We make covenants with our minister. We covenant with one another. Why? Because we want to be mindful of how we are with one another. We want to be mindful of what we offer. We want to be mindful about what others can count on us from us. Promises feed hope. Commitment is fed by passion. Covenants are sustained by love. Covenants are very serious business. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. Covenants are an expression of our love, of our values, and our mindful actions. They are the most important kind of promise.
We are a community that works for more than ourselves. Our practice here at UUSM is to dedicate half of our Sunday offerings to organizations doing work in the world that resonates with our Unitarian Universalist principles. The other 50% of the offering is used to support the life of our church. This month, half of our Sunday offerings will go to Trans Lifeline. Founded in 2014, Trans Lifeline's hotline launched shortly after Trans Day of Remembrance in response to the epidemic of suicides in the trans community. Beyond the hotline, they offer help with name change documents, provide support to family and friends, and support the incarcerated and recently released trans folk. Services are offered in both English and Spanish. We also encourage you to give to the general fund of our church. We're not worshiping in our building, nor can any of the rooms on our campus be used by the many groups that have met there for years. So if you are able, and we know some of you are not, please give. Thanks for your generous support. There are 3 ways to give: over text, through our website, or by mailing a check. Using your smartphone, text 844-982-0209 with the donation amount and the codes for where the fund will be posted. A brief registration form will be sent to you if this is your first time giving in this manner, but it's very simple each time afterwards. To make a generous congregation contribution, use the code GCC or use the QR code that you see on the screen. On our website, you can make a one-time donation or set up recurring payments for your pledge or another purpose. Your giving makes a big difference.
Promises, promises, I'm all through with promises, promises now. I don't know how I got the nerve to walk out. If I shout, remember, and you feel free. Now I can look at myself and be proud. I'm laughing out loud. Oh, promises, promises, this is where those promises end. I can't pretend that what was wrong can be right. Every night I sleep now, no more lies. Things that I promised myself fell apart, but I found my heart. Oh, promises, the kind of promises can just destroy your life. Oh, promises, those kind of promises take all the joy from life. Oh, promises, promises, my kind of promises can lead to joy and hope and love. Yeah. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on each other when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Call me
When you need a friend,
when you're feeling.
lean on me.
You can always just call me.
When you're feeling
Give me a call.
call me.
Won't you just
call me.
This service is over, and our service to the world continues. Go now, keeping the promises that you have made and kept close to your heart, letting go of the promises that you knew were not promises to begin with, remembering, being mindful of the covenants that you make with one another, and knowing that whether it is hope or passion or values or commitment, it is your character, it is your word, it is what we hold on to because we love one another.